The wide receiver position has never been deeper in fantasy football. It seems like each and every year we are adding stud wide receivers to the player pool. There are over 35 wide receivers out there right now that I would have zero issues in starting weekly for my fantasy football team. There are literally guys down inside of tier 5 in this show that you could probably make a case for them being all the way up into tier 3. The talent is that deep. Now, I would love to fit 50 wide receivers inside my top 35, but I haven't figured out how to do that yet. So here is how I've broken down my current top 35 wide receivers into tiers. So let's give a quick rundown of all these tiers, starting off at tier number 1 with CeeDee Lamb of the Dallas Cowboys. I think a lot of people can agree he's probably one of the safest wide receivers you can draft early on in fantasy football here this year, just due to his target share alone. Minimal offensive weapons in this passing game, and we already know that CeeDee Lamb has 10 plus touchdown upside. Then we go to Tyreek Hill, the top option in a crowded offense. But now in back-to-back years in Miami, he's seen 170 plus targets and 1,700 plus receiving yards, still one of the top wide receivers. The next guy, one of my favorites in 2024, it's Amon-Ra St. Brown of the Detroit Lions, and he is reliable AF. He's not overly flashy, but he's going to go out each and every week and get you 10 plus fantasy points and plays for one of the top offenses in the NFL. But then we go down to Ja'Marr Chase. And do I really overly trust Joe Burrow this year? No, not really. I do like what we've seen out of camp so far, but Ja'Marr Chase showed last year that he can even produce with Jake Browning at quarterback. Plus now, we have no Tyler Boyd in this offense. Ja'Marr Chase in line for another huge season as well. And then to round out tier 1, I'm throwing Justin Jefferson in there. Really similar to what I said with Ja'Marr Chase. Justin Jefferson came back the end of 2023 when Kirk Cousins was already out. During that span, 44 targets, 30 catches, 476 yards, and 2 touchdowns, and he did that with Nick Mullins as his quarterback. Can he do it with Sam Darnold or JJ McCarthy? I really think he can, and that's why he's here at the end of tier 1. Now, if you're out there watching right now and you are just hoping and praying to get one of the guys right here inside of tier 1, do me a favor and hit the like button right now. Because if you don't hit the like button right now, all these guys are going to be drafted before you have a chance to snag them, and I would hate for that to happen. But now we make our way down to tier 2. I got Garrett Wilson right here. The dude has put up over 1,000 yards with Zach Wilson, Mike White, Bad Joe Flacco, Chris Streveler, Trevor Siemian, and Tim Boyle as his quarterbacks. What do you think he's going to do with Aaron Rodgers? Definitely deserves to be higher in the rankings this year. Then we go down to Davante Adams. It may not be pretty, but there's going to be so much volume going his way that if they can go to Gardner Minshew and have that be more catchable targets, he's going to put up fantasy points just due to volume alone. Then we got A.J. Brown. 1/3 of his season scoring came in just 3 games last year. He isn't the most consistent, but when it comes to scoring fantasy points, he can put them up in bunches. Then I have Marvin Harrison Jr., the rookie for the Arizona Cardinals, and he is in line for a huge target share as a rookie. Now, Kyler Murray, he has supplied a top wide receiver before in fantasy football in DeAndre Hopkins. With the volume alone going his way and the big playability, Marvin Harrison Jr. is one of those rookie wide receivers that could pop off in their first year. Kind of like the next guy on the list, Puka Nacua. Now, it's not just the Puka show in LA anymore. We know that Cooper Kupp is going to be back and fully healthy to start the season, and the Rams also brought back Demarcus Robinson, who went on a hot streak the end of 2023. Still a good year incoming, though, for Puka. And then to round out tier 2, it's Mike Evans. What has really changed in Tampa Bay to really think that Mike Evans isn't going to have a season similar to what we saw last year? Plus, we already know that the dude is an absolute lock for over 1,000 yards and right around 10 touchdowns a season. He deserves to be at the end of tier 2. So, okay, we're through 2 tiers, and if you haven't hit the subscribe button yet, now is the time to do so, because if you don't, your league mates are going to, and you're going to be playing catch up all season long, and man, that would really suck. So let's move on to tier 3 now. The first name is Chris Olave. No more Michael Thomas, and hopefully a healthy Derek Carr this year can lead to a better overall season, a more consistent season for Chris Olave there in New Orleans. Then I have Brandon Ayuk. Does he stay in San Francisco? My question to you is, does it matter? He's not really a volume type receiver anyway. He doesn't need huge targets each and every week to put up fantasy points. No matter where he goes, he should have a chance at similar volume to what he sees in San Francisco. Now, if he stays in San Francisco, we've kind of seen what that looks like over the last couple years. Next up is his teammate. It's Deebo Samuel. And we all know when the end of the season comes, Deebo's going to be a top 20 wide receiver. The problem is he's pretty hit or miss weekly, and he's always dealing with minor injuries. But you'd be lying to yourself if you didn't admit the fact that he can win you a week all by himself at times. Which then takes us down to Michael Pittman of the Indianapolis Colts. And we know that Indianapolis now has multiple options in this offense. Guys like Josh Downs. They just drafted Adonai Mitchell. We know about Jonathan Taylor. But Michael Pittman is still the best overall wide receiver on this team. All he needs is catchable targets from Anthony Richardson. Can he get him? He got him last year from Gardner Minshew. If that number takes a hit at all this year, which I have a feeling it might, that's why he's dropped down here to the middle of tier 3. Then we go with Drake London. He may be one of the most overhyped wide receivers of this offseason. While I do expect him to have a career year, I don't think it's safe to say that he's going to go out and have some top 10 wide receiver season in fantasy football this year. Can he have a great year? Yes, he can. A top 10 year, though? That's asking quite a bit from somebody that we really haven't seen it from before. Then we have Jalen Waddle. If his down year was 1,000 yards in just 14 games, then I'm looking forward to the bounce back here in 2024. And then lastly, to round out tier 3, it's Cooper Kupp of the Los Angeles Rams. Even though he's battled through injuries, when he's on the field, he's a definite threat for 10 targets a game. We already know that he has that connection with Matthew Stafford, and Stafford likes to throw him those TDs. Sure, he may be getting a little bit older. Sure, we're going to get him at a discount in 2024, but I'm not writing off Cooper Kupp just yet. And that right there is going to get us through 3 tiers. And let me just say this, I've been super impressed lately with how many of you out there are actually paying attention to all the videos. I like to drop hashtags inside of videos to really see who's paying attention, and it never fails. We get tons of comments down below with those hashtags. So for example, if I were to say, drop the hashtag ball catchers down below in the comment section, I'm sure a lot of people would do it, especially when I'm going to pick one of those people randomly to give them a free fantasy football draft guide here for 2024. So not saying, just saying, maybe you should put hashtag ball catchers down below in the comment section. Maybe you want a draft guide regardless. You can also head over to tfhdraftguide.com and get yours right now. Okay, let's dive into tier 4. And the first guy here in the tier is DK Metcalf of the Seattle Seahawks. And this one really all comes down to Geno Smith. All DK needs is more catchable volume. Last year, he only had 66 catches, but had 119 targets. That is not a good percentage right there. More catchable balls, more production going the way of DK Metcalf. What about Zay Flowers? He's going to have all kinds of opportunities here in 2024. He's going to be the #1 wide receiver option in this Baltimore offense. There is no one else that's really going to steal a lot of targets from him at the wide receiver position, and we know that Mark Andrews has struggled to stay on the field here as of late. How about George Pickens? He just put up 1,100 yards receiving with Kenny Pickett, Mitchell Trubisky, and Mason Rudolph. Now he's going to go to Russell Wilson or Justin Fields, which is a very nice upgrade. Loving some George Pickens as a potential pop-off player this year. What about Devontae Smith next? He has the talent to be a top 12 wide receiver in fantasy football. A wide receiver 1. He plays in a great offense, but the offense is so stacked, he just doesn't get a chance to do it weekly, and that's why he's right here mid-tier 4 for me. Followed by Hollywood Brown of the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, he is in line for a huge target share if Rashee Rice misses time. As of right now, it looks like Rashee Rice isn't going to have a court date until December, so he may be on the field. But you got to think they brought in Hollywood Brown to take some of that overall pressure off of Travis Kelce, who's aging and kind of struggling to really produce like he has in the past. Hollywood Brown's still going to have a role. Got him right here, mid-tier 4, followed by Chris Godwin of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We saw him dominate down the stretch in 2023. Why did that happen? It's because they finally put him into the slot. Well, they've already come out this year and said, you know who our slot wide receiver is going to be? It's going to be Chris Godwin. We know Baker looks for him there. We've seen him produce there. That's why Godwin is a lot higher in my rankings than so many other people. What about Amari Cooper next? I would love to have him higher, but I really just don't trust Deshaun Watson that much. But the only reason I still have Amari Cooper this high is because their backup quarterback is Jameis Winston. If Jameis Winston gets called into a game, we know he likes to lock on to that number one option. That number one option in Cleveland is still Amari Cooper. Yeah, they've added guys like Jerry Jeudy, forget all that. Amari Cooper's still the number one in Cleveland. And then to round out tier 4, we got T. Higgins of the Cincinnati Bengals. He is playing for a fat stack of cash in a contract year. Plus, we know that Cincinnati is paying him a butt ton of money under the franchise tag this year. Do not be surprised if they run him till the wheels fall off with no Tyler Boyd in the offense. I'm not forgetting about T. Higgins. But now we're going to head into tier 5. It is the home stretch. Right now, people are leaving comments down below in the comment section saying that I'm sleeping on certain players because they haven't seen them in the show yet, but that's okay. I'm just going to respond to all those comments with a timestamp where I said at the beginning of the show, there are literally guys in tier 5 that could be up inside tier 3. The talent is that deep. So here we go. Right off the bat, I got DJ Moore of the Chicago Bears. We already know he has a crazy high ceiling. We've seen it before, but now he's splitting targets with Keenan Allen, Rome Odunze, Cole Kmet, and Gerald Everett. He may have a good season, but it's going to be up and down production. That's why I've dropped him a little bit. Same thing with the next couple guys here. We got Nico Collins first, and you know I am an OG Nico truther. Do not forget that. But adding a player into an offense like Stephon Diggs and getting back a healthy Tank Dell is going to eat into the target share so much of Nico Collins. Inconsistent production is coming. Same thing for the next guy, it's Stephon Diggs. Do I need to repeat what I just said? Hopefully you already listened. I'm just going to say ditto everything I said for Nico Collins. Then we have Christian Kirk. He's still going to be the safety blanket for Trevor Lawrence in this offense. He's going to lead the team in targets, and just 2 years ago, he was a top 12 fantasy option. Next is Jaden Reed of the Green Bay Packers. It took a while for him to establish his role in 2023, but once it happened, he absolutely took off. He scored 10 plus fantasy points in 8 of his last 10 games of the season last year. Then we got Terry McLaurin in a new offense with a new offensive coordinator, mind you, in Cliff Kingsbury. This air raid offense paired with the new quarterback in Jaden Daniels is going to be like a deep ball dream. With other guys like Luke McCaffrey and Jahan Dotson, I'm tempering expectations slightly. I don't want to throw Terry McLaurin too high up the list, but definitely in line for a bounce back. Followed by Calvin Ridley of now the Tennessee Titans. And they've already come out and said they would like Calvin Ridley to play that Jamar Chase role in Tennessee under new head coach Brian Callahan, who came over from Cincinnati. The problem is Calvin Ridley is not Jamar Chase, and he's still splitting targets with DeAndre Hopkins and now Tyler Boyd. We also have an unproven second-year quarterback in Will Levis. Now, while I do think he has an opportunity to break out this year, I'm not so quick to say that Calvin Ridley is going to be the clear-cut number one that racks up so many targets that he deserves to be higher. Next up, Malik Neighbors of the New York Giants. And I wish he was playing anywhere else but New York. It's just a place where studs go to die in fantasy football. His talent is unquestionable. He just needs a ton of quality targets. When you see the name Daniel Jones, does the phrase a ton of quality targets come to mind? It doesn't really, and that's why I've dropped him down a little bit lower. And then lastly, the last wide receiver in tier 5, it's Tank Dell. We have all 3 Houston wide receivers in this tier. Because let me make direct eye contact with you. There are going to be weeks all season long where these 3 wide receivers put up top 10 numbers at the position. The problem is, They're not going to do it every single week. The defense is improved in Houston. The overall team is better in Houston. They're going to have more second half leads. They're not going to be playing from behind and having to throw for all 4 quarters. They brought in Joe Mixon for a reason. Now, when the season comes to an end, we may have 3 1,000-yard receivers in Houston. But like I've said so many times before in this show, the consistency, more than likely, on a week-to-week basis, is going to be pretty up and down. So as you can see, there are a ton of wide receivers out there that deserve to be inside the top 35 overall, but I can't fit more than 35 in there. Now, obviously, my rankings may not match your rankings, and that is okay. When we come together and discuss differences in players, that's when, as a community, we build the best damn rankings in the industry, and it's why we find so much success each and every year. Now, if you enjoyed today's show, hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already. I'm gonna go ahead and get out of here for the day, but hopefully you enjoy the rest of your day, and most importantly, do your part to make the world a better place.